All right. I think everybody's getting there. Awesome. So I'm going to reshare what I just had up. Did everybody get this okay in their email? Just give me a nod or a thumbs up. Okay, awesome. So the whole sole purpose of today, after you finish that quiz, is to review for your practical and make sure you feel comfortable with what you're going to be doing. So the next Tuesday and Thursday, I also sent you out the schedule of the practicals. Does everybody feel comfortable with those? Understand where they're supposed to be and who they're with and all? Okay, awesome. Somebody just popped into the waiting room maybe here. I think we're okay. All right, there we go. Just double checking. So you will come on Tuesday or Thursday, depending on where you're signed up. And when you come into the blue courts, we'll have it set up for you in such a way that you'll be able to come in, introduce yourself first and foremost, and make sure that you have everything to be successful that you need right at your fingertips, okay? So over here on this page for me, I want you to just follow along with me, okay? Right here, each station, when you come in, is gonna have a medicine ball. It will not be overly heavy and it will be a hard one, not necessarily a soft one. You'll have a stability ball, you'll have a BOSU ball, you'll have your dowel, your broomstick. You will have an Olympic bar that's already set up for you with 5 or 10 pound bumper plates on it. So again, a very light setup because you'll be teaching deadlift. You'll have a mat with you, to make core work or that kind of thing easier if you decide that's what you want to do. You'll have a kettlebell, and then of course you'll obviously have yourself, and your client will have themselves. Those who will be working with us as your clients will be myself, Coach Liv, my assistant. Heath will have somebody helping him because obviously he'll be recovering from his surgery still. And Wayne Lamar is going to be helping us too. Okay. So you'll have one of us who will be your athlete or your client, your patient, and your job will be to treat us as though we do not know how to do anything. We are no longer the experts. You are. Okay. So you're going to come in. Like I said, the station will be all set up for you. You'll shake our hands. You'll introduce yourself. Say, hi, I'm Lindy Kelly. I'm going to be your coach today. We're going to go through some different activities. Does that sound okay to you? Something along those lines. It can be completely whatever you want it to be. You do not have to sound like myself today or like Heath in class. I can't impress upon you enough that key point. Don't try to be someone else. Be you. Okay. So I'm looking at Joe Berger right now. Be Joe Berger. All right. When you're doing this. All right. Yeah, exactly. Why wouldn't you be? Okay. But I really want this to be authentic and from you, and people who do very well on this practical, which most people really do, really take that seriously. And they just have their own coaching voice as they go. All right. It's normal to be nervous with it, but don't stress out about it. Okay. We're not there to try to trip you up and stress you out. We're just there to be coached by you. We want to see what you've picked up over the last semester. And we're there for you to correct our form and technique. So we will purposely mess up. Okay, we will find ways to kind of not try to trick you. We will be very overt in our mess up. Okay, and we want you to correct us as we go. So that's what we're going to talk about, is that whole format today. All right, so you come in, you introduce yourself. All of that equipment is there for you with your person. Following me so far? Yeah, give me nods or thumbs up. Okay, awesome. Great. So you are going to have 4 scenarios that you need to coach. The first will be functional fitness. You will select out of a cup. One of us, your client, your patient, your athlete will hold up the cup for you, and you will select out of the cup upper or lower extremity. So you need to have both scenarios prepared for. Okay. And I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end on how I want you to kind of practice this and prepare it. Okay. You'll select one of them, and that will be that. And that's the one that you're going to coach. So you can select anything in your library of exercises or that we've taught you in lab that involves the upper extremity or the lower extremity. Make sense? Okay. But you need to prepare for both scenarios because you don't know what you're going to get. The second thing that you're going to teach is a plyometric. Okay. And similar to the first one, you're going to select out of the cup a hop or jump in place, a standing hop or jump, or a multiple hop or jump. So remember from the last lab that we did prior to the Olympic lifting, we went through all those different types of plyometrics. Okay. I'll remind you on what constitutes hop and jump, place, standing, and multiple, so that you have a good kind of, connection on what that means. Okay. The third scenario will be Olympic weightlifting. So that's where you'll teach us how to just do the deadlift. We're not asking you to teach us how to do the hang clean or the power clean or any of those sorts of things. We're just asking you to teach us the base deadlift. And I'll go through that with you again today. Okay. And then you do not have to select out of a cup for that one. That one's just known. only the deadlift, okay? And then scenario 4 is going to be flexibility, okay? They will all be dynamic in nature. It's not, you're not gonna pick a static or something like that. It's just all gonna be dynamic, but you don't know what muscle group you will get. So it could be quadricep, it could be hamstring, piriformis glute, or external rotators, okay? So any of the things that we've taught you in lab with all of the warm-ups we've done, okay, almost all of them, you could probably make an argument for just about any of these, okay? But it's your job to select which one you want to teach for each of these options. So you'll have to kind of know exactly how to coach a stretch, a dynamic stretch for your quadricep, for your hamstring, your piriformis glute, or external rotators. And I'll give you a little bit of a secret. The Spider-Man that Heath loves so much that he has you all do to start every single session gets all 3. So you can't go wrong with that. Does that make sense? Okay. So you will go over how to coach that if you'd like. Oh, I meant and groin too, but that 4. So that one covers technically all of them. But that said, you can certainly select one that you would like to do as well. Okay. We just like to make sure that you feel comfortable with what you're doing. So you will select, like I said, out of the cup for those pieces, but you'll select the exercise choice for that thing and the modality. So do you want to use body weight? Do you want to use a kettlebell, a medicine ball, a stability ball, Bosu ball? Up to you. Okay. It's completely up to you. Some people in the past have found that challenging, that they get to select it and they get to kind of choose it. I think it's exciting. That's just me. So hopefully it psychs you and doesn't stress you out. Okay. But if you know ahead of time what you are going to do, you will be very successful because you can pre-plan it out. All right. And the creativity, this is where the art and the science of strength and conditioning merge for you guys. Okay. You do not have to be dictated to, you get to dictate us for once. That's what's exciting about this practical. Okay. Once you get started, you're going to need to give the name of the exercise that you're going to do. Okay. So you have to tell us what we're going to be doing. You'll give us the primary muscle or muscles. Hint, hint on that is usually always muscles because nothing works in isolation as we've learned, right? Okay. You do not have to give us every single muscle that it works, but definitely the major 2 or 3. Okay. You'll tell us the body position that you want us in, and you'll give us 3 positional cues and 3 safety cues as part of that body position. So there's 6 cues that you need to give us, and we'll talk all about these in a little bit. I'm just going over the format for you quickly. Okay. You'll then need to demonstrate proper technique for us. So you'll give us the name, you'll give us the muscles, you'll give us the body position with the 6 cues. And then you're going to say, okay, hey, this is how I want you to do this. And you're going to do 3 repetitions because that's what research has proven helps someone learn. You need to show 3 repetitions. And we're going to ask you to do that with a frontal view and 2 sagittal views. So you're going to be in front of them and demonstrate it. And then you're going to demonstrate it from left and right. All right. Now you can do that in 2 ways. You can have your client, your patient, your athlete rotate around you, kind of like the sun, the earth and the sun. All right. Or you can yourself turn for them. All right. That's either one is fine by me. Folks have done it always in the past. Okay. Both count fine. So whatever works best for you, you telling the person to come around you and view you from 3 views, or you turning yourself and showing it. Okay. Either one will work. You will then ask them after you've demonstrated it, do you have any questions for me? And if they do, which we might ask you a question, okay, it's not again to trip you up, but usually if we ask you a question, it's because we're prompting you for something you've forgotten or left out. Okay. So for example, if you say, all right, Linda, do you have any questions about that bodyweight squat? And I might say, what am I supposed to do with my knees? Do I let them cave in or not? And that would tell you that, oh shoot, I forgot to give one of the safety cues. Does that make sense? Okay. So we're there. It's trying to usually help you with what you're doing. All right. It's never to trip you up. Sometimes you do such an amazing job and you bring up a really, really great point, and I just want to find out more about it. So I might ask you conversationally. Okay. So just because we ask you a question does not mean that you're doing poorly. Okay. In fact, it's us just trying to help you. Okay. So don't get stressed out if that's the case. You'll reinforce those positional and safety cues as you have us do it. All right. So you're going to say, hey, great job on keeping your elbows where they're supposed to be, or excellent job making sure that you're continuing to breathe while you do this. You want to coach them while they do it. The worst thing you could do is just tell someone how to do something and step away and ignore them. You're not actually coaching them, right? Your job doesn't end just because you've shown them how to do it. All right. You will have them perform it 3 times. So again, that 3, don't forget the 3, that's very important. All right. And you will view them from 3 views. So just like you showed them how to do it in 3 views, you need to show them or, view them in 3 views, because We will do things, for example, on the deadlift, if you're looking at us in a frontal view straight on, that you will not notice, okay, unless you were looking on a sagittal view, all right? And I'll show you that when I go to demonstrate that for you. We might do something different with our core or our spine that isn't very overtly obvious from the front. So you really do need to see us from both angles. So you need to move around us at that point. Does that make sense so far? Yeah? Okay, great. And then of course, if we mess up, which we're likely to, you know, it's our first time ever, you have to correct our technique, okay? So again, it will be something very simple and overt that we're gonna ask you to do. And all you're gonna do is say, oh, hey, you know, Lindy, I noticed that you're letting your spine get out of alignment, you're curving your back. I want you to keep a nice open chest and a nice neutral spine. I'll say, oh, okay, why didn't I think of that? And then I'll fix it. So once you correct us, you want us to do another repetition so that we can prove what we've gotten it. And we won't mess up twice in a row. We won't do that to you, okay? We won't be real tricky like some athletes can be downstairs, okay? We're gonna make it as easy on you as we possibly can. We just wanna make sure that you can correct us, okay? So then when all that's said and done, and that will come together very quickly, believe it or not. I know that sounds like a lot that I just told you, but it will happen quickly, okay? We will say, you know what? That was super hard for me. Can you make it easier? Okay, and then you'll have to modify for us and regress the exercise. So that's selected by your instructor. So you have to have a plan for if you say upper body, we'll talk about that in a minute, whatever you select, you need to be able to regress, I should say, and progress. Same for lower body. So really, you have to have 3 exercises planned for functional fitness. Okay, your base, your middle, and then one that's harder and one that's easier. Okay, and same thing for lower body, all right? You do not have to modify the dynamic stretches. That's gonna be just one go, do 3 repetitions. We will still probably do something to mess with you to have us correct our technique, okay? Which, as you know, there are a lot of ways that you could go wrong with stretching, okay, and flexibility and that kind of thing. So we will do something there on that regard, but you will not have to modify that or the deadlift, okay? But you will have to modify progress or regress, functional fitness, and the plyometric, okay? You're good on that so far? Awesome. All right, and then you have to restart everything. All right, so when you give us the new modification, you cannot assume that we still understand everything to be true from the first one. So you have to give us the same, you know, the primary muscles again, give us those 6 positional cues because they could be different, right? If we're changing and modifying or making it harder, for sure, there's going to be things that we need to think of differently now, okay? You need to demonstrate it again with 3 repetitions, frontal, sagittal, sagittal, okay? Ask if we have questions, reinforce those cues as we go, have us try 3 repetitions and view us in 3 angles, and then correct our technique. We may mess up, we may not. We might say, oh man, that felt great. Thank you so much. That was a much better option for me, okay? Or we might still mess up depending on if you didn't give us good cues or not. But if you're very thorough, we might not, okay? So any questions on that? No, okay, great. So again, you only have to do those modifications, progressions, regressions for functional fitness and plyometrics. Olympic deadlift and the flexibility, you do not have to modify. You just have to coach, have us do it, and that's that, okay? Any questions before I move on and start giving you some live examples?
I have a question. Can we use different exercises than we did in class?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, as long as it meets the needs of the practical. And we've had athletes or people in the class do a farmer carry for an upper body exercise, for example, and then change it to a racked carry. That makes it harder. Does that make sense? We've had people do overhead slams. We've had people do ball tosses. We've had people, I mean, you can really just about think about anything you possibly can. We'll do it for you, okay? I will caution you on this though. Don't get very complex on this. There's no need to, okay? It only makes it harder on you and us, all right? So pick something that you are very comfortable doing yourself, all right? Don't pick an exercise that you cannot properly do yourself, because if you can't give us a proper demonstration, then we can't really copy you. And whatever you do, I guarantee you this, whatever you do, we will copy. So if you give us poor form and technique when you do it, we will do that too, okay? So make sure that you feel comfortable and confident doing whatever you pick yourself, okay? But outside of that, absolutely, Have fun with it. That's where the creativity comes in. Okay, makes sense? That was a great question.
Thank you.
Others? We good so far? Okay, great. So what I'm going to do now, okay, is give you this example right here. All right. So let's say that you choose, I don't have a medicine ball here at home, but I do have a kettlebell. So I'm going to kind of play that in. Okay. Let's say that you choose a kettlebell as your modality. Okay. So you know that that's what you're going to use, and you selected lower body out of the cup. So, all right, squat is the exercise that you're going to do. And then you're going to choose yourself what you're going to do. We're just saying this is what you've chosen. Okay. You're going to do a counter movement with that kettlebell. Okay. And then you'll give the name of the exercise. So we're going to do a kettlebell squat with shoulder flexion counter movement. All right. Again, you can make it even simpler than that. This is just Heath's example that he's always used. So we're going with it. Okay. Because it's always worked. So what I would do is walk in. Okay. I'm going to use Joe again because I still see Joe on my screen. Okay. I'm going to walk in. I'm going to be dressed for success. Also, I meant to mention that you need to be strength coach professional. That does not mean you have to be in khakis and a polo, but it does mean that you need to look something like I do every day. Okay. And everybody, I got my shorts on. I got my logoed stuff. My cat, I just almost tripped over my cat. She was right behind me on the mat. That wouldn't have been good. Okay. So make sure your mat is clear for people as well, please. But yeah, strength coach professional. Okay. Please do not show up with a Bud Light t-shirt. It's happened. Okay. So I mention it. Don't show up in, things with cutouts on them or that aren't appropriate for clothing. Again, it's happened. Okay. Just look like you should when you go to internship. Okay. Or if you were working in the field. Any questions on that? No, but we do want you to be able to move comfortably. So please don't wear something that's restrictive that you can't move in as well. Okay. So if you wanted to wear a polo and khakis, cool. Just make sure that you can move in it. Okay. So I would walk in, I would extend my hand and I would say, hi, Joe, or probably, hold on, I don't know Joe yet. So I would say, hi, I'm Coach Kelly. What's your name? And Joe Berger would probably say, hi, I'm Joe. Okay. Which happened the first day we ever met, probably. And I would shake his hand and say, okay, hey, great. Today, this is what we're going to do, Joe. We're going to do several different types of exercise. We're going to start with functional fitness. We'll choose something that's either upper body or lower body out of this cup here. And then after that, we're going to do some plyometrics. I'll teach you how to deadlift, and we're going to finish with some dynamic flexibility. How's that sound? And Joe's probably going to say that sounds great. Let's do it. Okay. So at that point, I've now introduced myself. He has familiarity with me as a professional, and we go ahead. I'd selected lower body extremity, like I mentioned earlier. Okay. So I'm going to tell Joe, all right, Joe, we are going to do a kettlebell squat with shoulder flexion and some counter movement today. Sound good? He's going to say, sure. Okay. So that's the name of the exercise, right? Primary muscle wise. Okay. Joe, this is really going to challenge your lower body mostly. So we're going to be working on our quadriceps, our hamstrings, and our glutes. But because we're holding the kettlebell, it's going to make it a bit more challenging for our upper body and core as well. Okay, so we're going to be kind of really looking at everything, even though we're emphasizing our lower body. He's going to say, great, sounds good. Okay. Then what I will do is explain, and you can do this concurrently, so all at the same time, or you can do it and then demonstrate. I like to do it all at the same time. That's just me and my coaching style. I'll show you that. You take it or leave it. Okay. Either one is fine. All right. But what I would do, cat, get out of the way. Hopefully you don't have a cat on your mat. Okay. I would get my kettlebell and I'm going to explain to him that I'm going to hold the kettlebell in a goblet position right on my chest. Okay. I'm going to make sure that I've got a really good grip on it. I'm going to get my feet. I'll try to turn this so you can see it a bit. Okay. I'm going to get my feet slightly wider than my shoulders, my toes a little bit externally rotated. And then what's going to happen is I'm going to squat down, weight in my heels, driving my knees apart. I'm not allowing medial knee cave. Keep a nice torso position. At the bottom, I'm going to extend my arms out, pull it back in, drive through my heels, and stand up tall. And then I would turn, say I'm going to do the same exact thing for you, but I want you to see me from a different angle. Extend my hips down and back, extend my arms out, keep a nice, good upright posture, drive through my heels, stand up tall. And then last repetition, same thing. I squat down, keep my knees apart, extend out, keep my core up and upright, and make sure that I breathe nice and relaxed the entire time. Okay. And then I would say to Joe, do you have any questions, Joe? And he would say, no, or he would say what he's going to say. Does that make sense? Okay. So I just gave Ooh, probably 10 or 12 cubes right there. That's more than 6. All I need is 6, okay? But if you give us more than that, no worries, totally fine, okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Cool, all right? So I demonstrated it for him, and I gave him all those positional cues, and I reinforced things all at once, okay? I asked him if he had questions. Then what I would do is have him actually perform the exercise. I don't have somebody here to show that with you. Sorry, baby's sleeping. He's no fun anyway with this stuff, but I'd actually have him do the 3 things, okay? So for example, if I had this kettlebell, all right, and I step back and say, okay, Joe, we're gonna have you do the squat now. He gets himself set and he starts to go on the first repetition. This happens as he comes down. We're gonna be that overt about it, okay? We're purposely gonna do something squirrely like that. And you're gonna say, whoa, 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 hold on, Joe, okay? Pump the brakes for just a second. Can you set down your kettlebell? And he's gonna set it down and say, we're just gonna work on making sure that we don't have that medial knee cave or valgus movement of our knees, because we gotta make sure that our base is really solid and set before we get going. Does that sound good? You'll show him how to properly do it. You corrected him, and then you have him continue doing those 3 repetitions. Make sense? Yeah? Okay, you're with me still? Awesome. So then I will say, hey, you know what? That was really hard for me. Or he will say, that was really hard for me, coach. And I'll say, okay, hey, no big deal. We're going to just reduce the intensity of the exercise then. So we will forget about the kettlebell. And now what we're going to do is just a body weight squat. So it's going to feel a little bit easier for you without having to hold on to something. Okay. So you'll do the whole thing right over again. All right. So you'd have him set up again. You say, all right, this time you're not going to hold the kettlebell, but maybe I'm going to have you do the same movement pattern with your hands. So we're still going to do a body weight squat with counter movement with our hands. So all the same things are true. We're using all the same muscles, quadriceps, glutes, hamstrings, core, torso. Our upper body's involved, but not to such a great extent this time, right? We're going to sit in our heels, drive our knees apart, make sure we breathe normally, keep a neutral spine as we descend into the squat, right? And then you would show the exercise. So you'd have them squat, have them reach their hands out, stand up all the way tall, turn, okay? You'd show them that. You'd show them from the other direction, and then you have them try it, okay? And again, we might mess up, but probably we won't on that one, all right? So you've modified it, and that's that. Now, if they say that they want you to make it harder, somebody tell me how I could make that exercise harder with the kettlebell. Out of the 29 of you, somebody tell me.
Do an overhead squat.
For sure. Good job, Bergs. Okay. So now, hey, instead of me extending my hands out as I squat, I'm going to extend my hands up as I squat. Okay. That's a great example, right? So you've changed what changed. You also have to provide, this is why I'm bringing this up. You also have to provide why it makes it easier or harder. I did that for the easier one. I explained that it's going to take a little bit less, less strain on your body. But if I'm making it harder, why would that make it harder, Joe? You were brave. I appreciate
Less counterbalance.
For sure. Less counterbalance. Also, a little bit more core involvement, right? I have a longer lever arm by going overhead. That's awesome. All gravy. Okay. There are a lot of right answers, my friends. Okay. A lot more right answers than wrong. So you're going to do extremely well on this. You just have to use your noodle. Okay. Think things through. All right. So that was awesome. Does anybody have questions on how that works? No? It's pretty straightforward, right? So for example, if you were going to have somebody do for upper body, I'll give you a quick example of that. I won't go through the whole process. I think you understand it, I hope. But let's say you were going to have them do a push-up. That's what you selected as kind of your base model. Okay. So you show them how to do the push-up, right? With great form and technique from 3 angles, go through all the muscles, go through the safety positional cues, all that stuff. Okay. And then they say, that's really easy. How do I make that harder? How do I make a push-up harder without adding weight? What's another way to make something functionally harder?
Narrow the feet.
Hunter, yeah. Move the feet. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So you could remove a base of support. So maybe I would do a single leg push-up, right? Or maybe I bring my feet touching each other so they're narrow now, right? Rather than wide, okay? It could be as simple as you teach someone a narrow stance, so feet together push-up. And when they say this is too hard, how do I make it easier? Okay, let's move your feet out shoulder width because now you have more base of stability. It does not have to be overly like challenging and like crazy, okay? It can be very simple. And in fact, I'll tell you what, the best coaches are the ones who can take things like that and make simple, quick changes, okay? So don't stress yourself out with like crazy different variations, okay? Make sense? Great. I feel like I say makes sense a lot, my friends, but it's only because I want to check for your understanding because you're not in front of me, okay? So please have a good conversation if you need help. So that is how that will all work. Now, if we're talking plyometrics, let's talk about that briefly here, okay? A hop is a quarter to a half squat, right? And less intensity, correct? All right, just remember that. So if you select a hop of any of these three variations, it is less intense, quarter to half squat, less arm swing. Got it? Okay. If you select a jump, it is a half to a full squat. So more intensity, more muscle recruitment. Those are all things you'd want to say. Okay. And you're going to make sure that you're actually exerting a lot more force on your jumps. Okay. Whether it's in place. So in place would be what? Somebody give me an example of a hop or jump in place. Anybody got one for me? I'll call on somebody. Don't make me do it. Matt, tell me. I'm looking at Matt Whalen.
Hopper, wait, what's the question again?
So a hop, it's okay, a hop or jump in place. What's an example of that? In place means what?
Hop or jump in place. Oh, like you're literally just, you're not going forward. So
Yeah, so squat jump, right?
yeah, squat jump, something like
Yeah,
that. Tuck
you
jump.
don't overthink it, right? Okay, yes, exactly. Just a squat jump in place or a squat hop, right? Thank you, sir. So if you select a hop or jump in place, you can coach just a squat jump or a hop jump, or excuse me, a squat hop. Okay, but you'd want to use that terminology because you need to give the name of the exercise, the primary muscles involved, which would be obviously most of the lower body musculature. You could explain that, okay? You'll give their body position and their safety cues and all those good things, okay? Which for jumping and landing, just to give you a few, if any of you are taking notes, which I hope you are, okay? Landing softly on the balls of the feet, not taking off or landing on our heels, making sure there's no medial knee cave, there's no hip, shifting of the hips or spiraling of the hips on jump or land, okay? That we're keeping an upright torso and neutral spine, that we're making sure we're breathing normally, not holding our breath. That one counts for everything, as does neutral spine, by the way. You can't go wrong with saying that, okay? That you're landing with both feet equally, unless, of course, you've told them not to, which is fine too, if you have them doing it unilaterally or in a split stance, okay? But yeah, so there's some good examples of the safety and positional cues for you. Feet want to be about shoulder width apart, making sure that we're keeping our center of gravity within our stance, right? Okay, all those good things. The depth to which they load for the plyometric is also a good positional cue. Okay, so all right, we're going to go to a quarter or half squat for the hop. Okay, or we're going to go to a full or a half or full squat for the jump, right? And then conversely, if you selected standing hop or jump, where am I going with that? Am I staying in place or am I now moving? Moving, okay? So I'm going someplace else. So that's like the broad jumps that we did with me. So jumping forward and landing somewhere, jumping laterally, jumping diagonally, or hopping, okay? Depending on which one you select. And then multiple hop or jump, remember, sequence. You're sequentially stringing the jumps together with very little amortization. So that's something, if you select multiple hop or jump, if you want to talk about, all right, hey, we want to have quick, explosive feet. As soon as we're down, we're back up. We want to limit our amortization time or the amount of time our feet spend in contact with the ground, right? And if you do select multiple hop or jump, you're going to have them do three in sequence, okay? So 3 jumps in a row. Those are your 3 repetitions, okay? So quick example, I already gave you for the hop or jump in place would just be a squat hop or squat jump. Okay, so you're loading in place, taking off and landing in the same place. If to mess that up, we might show you medial knee cave. Okay, we might show you kind of that, like I use that Raggedy Ann or Raggedy Andy reference that no one understood I look like a rag doll basically when I land. I don't have a strong core and strong back. That'd be a way to correct me. Maybe I land with like super heavy feet. Okay, and you're like, whoa, whoa, hold on. We want to make sure we land with nice soft feet and explain why that's important. Okay. If I select a standing hop or jump, again, broad jump, right? Or broad hop. So either just quarter and half, or that quarter or half to full, and I get further out, bigger arm swing, bigger counter movement, all that stuff. Multiple hop or jump. Again, simply you could do a jump multiple hop in place, or you could do the 3 broad jumps in a row like you did with me. Okay. So those are some base models. Now to make anything easier, say you select jump in place. How do we make it easier? This is pretty straightforward. Okay, if I said we're gonna do a squat jump, so we're gonna load, explode, and land, and I said, oh, that was a little bit tough for me. How do I make that easier? I would say, okay, we're gonna do a hop. So that means we're gonna decrease the intensity. We're only gonna go to a quarter to half squat, a little bit less arm involvement, a little bit less intensity overall on our body as we land. A little bit easier to control. That would be the example of a modification. But if I say, wow, that was really easy. Hey, coach, how can you make that harder for me? Okay, then you might say, great, let's try taking off and landing on one foot. So we're going to do a unilateral or a single leg squat jump. Okay, so again, remove bases of support, change foot position. Maybe you have me do it in a staggered position instead. Okay, but the simplest way to do it is either to regress to a hop or progress to a single leg. Okay, hopefully that makes sense to you. You could also add in rotation. Okay, that would be another great example because now we're changing the plane of motion, right? Millions of options here for you people. Do we all make sense on the multiple hop or jump though? 3 in sequence. Okay, bam, bam, bam with what we're doing. Okay, great. I'm quickly gonna review the deadlift with you and the power position. The power position was in your quiz today, so hopefully you're feeling really great about the power position, okay? If not, this will give you a quick review. And remember on the deadlift, you're gonna actually have wheels on this bar. Okay, I just have a little thing that's from a fort building kit from Jace, but I stole it, okay? But the power position overall, you're gonna take the dowel will be there for you, all right? And you are going to have them line this up and get themselves set up. So you're gonna say, okay, hey, we wanna make sure our feet are on the same plane. So you're gonna put the dowel on the floor and make sure that their toes are aligned on the same plane, right? You're then gonna have that, you can either do this yourself and hand the dowel to them, or you can do it yourself is what I meant. So you can either set them up with the dowel in your hand, or you can pass it to them and talk them through it. Whatever you're most comfortable with is fine. Just make sure you're respectful of their space, especially when you go to measure their hips. You don't wanna be putting your hands in places they shouldn't be. So it's always smart to maybe hand it to them and have them do that too. Okay, but either way is fine as long as you professionally handle it. So then you're gonna tell them to put the dowel at their hip, and they're gonna put their feet 2 to 3 inches outside of hip width. They're gonna put the dowel at their big toe and externally rotate to 11 and 1, right? Okay, they're still on the same plane with their feet. You're then gonna have them put the dowel at their big toe and lower down into the power position. And at the power position, again, you wanna see that their toes, their knees, and their shoulders are aligned, okay? And they're in that nice position. So I would demonstrate all of that. If I'm coaching it, I would just talk them through it. I'm demonstrating it first. You have to demonstrate it first. I come up, okay, I come back down and I reset. For this one, I would probably ask them to come view me from the side. I'm gonna move right now, but I'm not, it would have to reset all your footwork and all that stuff. So just have them rotate around you, okay? But that way you can see that they are completely aligned and they can see you aligned, right? So that is that. I would have that 3 demonstration or 3 demonstration of that, okay? Then you have them do it. So you talk them through it. Make sure your feet are aligned, feet are 2 to 3 inches outside of hip width. Make sure your feet are external, toes are externally rotated. Make sure that you're all on the same plane with your shoulders, knees, and toes. Questions? No? All right, good. So you're gonna show that to them before you have them deadlift. Got it? Okay. You have to demonstrate it 3 times. Make sure you give them all the information about it and then have them do it, okay? Now, once they demonstrate it with proficiency, and again, we might mess up. So for example, a mess up on this one might be something like this, where we push the dowel way out with our knees, okay? Or we give ourselves medial knee cave or something kind of crazy like that, okay? Once we, like I said, demonstrated proficiency, now we're gonna step up to the barbell. So the barbell will be set up and you're gonna tell them to step up to the barbell after you show them how to do it. So don't forget to show them how to do it. Some people jump right over it, okay? So you would yourself, this is Joe and I again, okay, I'm gonna tell Joe, what I would like you to do is follow what I do here in a moment. I'm gonna roll the barbell up to my shins. I'm going to grip the bar with my thumbs touching my shins. So my hands are just outside of my knees, my strong back, my hips are low, my weight's in my heels, and I have a nice neutral spine. I'm gonna push the floor away actively and pull the bar up to my hips, tuck my hips underneath my shoulders, shoulders down and back, nice neutral spine. Again, as I descend back down and set the barbell back on the floor, okay, I drive back up, reset, and then you do 3 repetitions. So given that you have the barbell, probably have them move around you again, okay? So instead of you kind of turning with the barbell, have them view you left, right, and front, okay? Awesome. So that is that. Now for the deadlift, things that we might do to kind of mess you up, okay? Again, medial knee cave, maybe we get this kind of thing going on, okay? We will make it that overt with a big old rounded spine. Maybe at the top, we'll pull our elbows, okay? Maybe we'll pop into the balls of our feet and off of our heels, for example. We might put our hands, if you're only viewing us from left and right, we might put our hands inside into a sumo position, okay? Like that. We don't want that for today. We want to make sure it's the Olympic grip, okay? So hopefully that gives you some ideas of what to expect with the deadlift, okay? But when you're coaching it, make sure you tell them to roll the bar to their shins, get themselves set up in their power position, which all counts as body and safety positional cues, which is gravy, okay? Hands outside of their legs, grip the bar tightly, drive the floor away, pull the bar up tall, keep it close to your bodies. If you were painting a line, that's another great one, okay? And making sure that at the top, they're tucking their tailbone, shoulders down and back, gripping the bar tightly, neutral spine. And then control the descent down, all right? Questions on the deadlift? No? Okay, you still with me, people? I can't see y'all, so I'm just double checking, okay? And then finally, when you get to flexibility, you will select that out of the cup, okay? And then again, you're gonna need to take us through the safety cues, the positional cues, demonstrate it for us 3 times, give us the name of the exercise. Even though you just selected, let's say, piriformis glute external rotator, it's all one, okay? We obviously know what muscle it works, but please tell us, okay? Assume that we are not the professional you are, and you just explain all that. So you still have to give us the muscle group. Some people forget that, okay? And then you'll show us, like I mentioned, how to do it with 3 repetitions, move the person around you, probably again, that's easier than not. And then they'll have them try it. And that will be that. And then again, we might mess up, we might not, depending on how well you explain it, okay? But just make sure that whatever you select is something you can do. So if you know that you have terribly, terribly tight hips, and that, for example, when you go to do the spider stretch, that you can't get your elbow to the floor, okay? Or you have a lot of trouble rotating and keeping your core solid, probably don't pick that one to teach, right? Maybe you do the sumo squat that Heath always does. Okay, where we squat down, we grab our ankles, then we extend our hips and sit back down. Sumo squat to stand. That's a great groin external rotator glute piriformis. Okay, that's hamstring as well, my friends. You could even make an argument that it gets your quadriceps on the extension of the knees. See how I did that there? As long as you can appropriately tell us biomechanically why it stretches that muscle, you will not be wrong. Okay. Now there's obviously some things that are obviously more targeted than not. So if you were doing a walking quadricep stretch, for example, okay, that one is pretty hard for me these days. Okay, my hips and quads do not love it, but I would want to tell them that we're going to keep our knee pointed at the ground. I'm going to grab my ankle, not my toe, right? And then as they're doing the stretch, you have them walking or in place. Every rep's a step, for example, okay? If we're falling all over the place and losing our balance, pretty good indicator that we need to be stopped and reminded that we need to keep our balance and work on those sorts of things, okay? to that end, to finish up with this, with the flexibility of the dynamic stretch, you need to give us a definition. Star this, don't forget it, okay? You need to give us a definition of what dynamic flexibility is. Okay, so for example, I would tell Joe Berger, all right, Joe, we're gonna do a walking quadriceps stretch. We're gonna work on obviously your quadriceps, okay, the top of your legs and your hip flexors while we do this, but this is also going to challenge you proprioceptively. It's gonna challenge your balance. It's gonna help you with coordination and timing, and it's sport specific. That's a great example of what dynamic flexibility means, right? It's proprioceptive in nature, challenges our balance, our coordination, okay? Helps us work on multiple muscles at once in synchronicity as we're moving, which makes it sport specific, okay? Because I'm doing things that are like the court, the field, the ice, the pool, the course. Got it? Okay. So hopefully that's given you a pretty good review of what to expect. Does anybody have any questions? No question is silly because I guarantee people are thinking it. So please be brave and bring it up if you have one. I don't know if I did that. I mean, I hope I did a good job explaining it, but I want to make sure that I answer all your questions. Does anybody have anything for me? No? Wow. All right, then. I know you're a pretty confident group. Okay.
I have one question.
Yeah.
So you said to explain what the power position was before the deadlift. Is the power position is that start place, like the deep start place of the deadlift, right?
You got it, sir.
Okay,
Yep,
cool.
exactly. So you're gonna set them up, use the dowel, okay? Set them up in it and display. When we approach the bar in a few minutes, after we've learned this power position, this is exactly the start position that you're gonna utilize to be successful while you deadlift. That's why we need to learn where to put your feet, how to position your core, and all those sorts of things. That's a great question. Okay, that's exactly why we teach it to you, is to make sure that people feel good about it.
Okay, thank you.
Great question. Anybody else? Wow. Okay. So as a quick review, you're going to come in to the blue courts. All right. We will call you in. We'll send, we'll either come get you ourselves, or you can kind of filter in at your time. Sometimes these go a little quick. Sometimes they go a little long. So I would really recommend being there early. Okay. So if you're at 9:30, you can pretty much bet we're going to start at 9:30. Okay. But that said, be there about 15 minutes early, please. Okay. Obviously you all have class during this time frame, so there's nothing else that should hold you up. Okay. Be there early, be ready to go. We will come get you, or you can come in. Either way is fine, as long as we're finished. Okay. Make sure you are dressed professionally and ready to go. Shoes are tied. I've seen that too. People come in with their shoes untied. All right. I would not trust a strength coach who did not have their shoes tied or in sandals. Okay. Make sure you're ready to go and you're ready to coach and you look the part. Okay. Well groomed. I know that seems funny to say these days, but again, I've seen it all. Okay. And then you'll introduce yourself to us, because we do give professionalism points on this as well. Okay. So if you just come in, you're like, okay, I've seen this before. No joke. Somebody did this once. Comes in. All right. Hey, so today this is like kicking stuff around, kicking the bar. This is what we're going to do. I think we're going to focus on something like this with our upper body. Does that make sense? And I'm like, no, none of that made sense to me. Okay. But I've seen it. I don't think anybody in this group will do that though. Okay. So please treat us with the utmost respect as you come in. Okay. And I know that you all will, but you are the professional in this case. And I know it's hard to coach us. Okay. But just remember that we're really excited for this practical. This is one of the highlights of my year. No joke. I love seeing what you've all learned and how you parlay it into coaching us. It's kind of the first time that I get to see your kind of personality as a coach and see what you're going to be like as you go on and graduate. I still remember my practical exactly the same way this one's set up. Okay. A long time ago. And it really was kind of like a formational moment for me of like, okay, I can do this. I got this, right? Whether I was going to go on to PT or strength and conditioning, which remained to be unseen at the time. Okay. But however you come in, just do it with confidence. Okay. Even if you don't feel confident. All right. And have fun with it. Be yourself. Okay, bring yourself and your authenticity to it, and you'll do absolutely fine. All right?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Where can we see the schedule? Like who is going when?
I sent that to you. I will double check that I did, just to triple check it, but here, give me a moment and I will pull it up and share it on my screen, okay? But it should have been in the email that I sent you all last night. I'm just gonna double check.
I found it.
You found it? Okay, good. So everybody's okay on that. Did everybody else find it with no issues? Oops, maybe I'm screen sharing there. Okay, awesome. That is that. I'm glad you found it then. All right. But yeah, that's your schedule. Again, be early, be ready to go. Okay. If you're very efficient and it takes you less time than the 15 minutes, don't stress. Okay. You're probably just very efficient. If it takes you a little bit longer, that's okay too. But we're really hoping that you can stick to that 15-minute mark. I think it is as we go, 15 or 20 minutes. Okay. And you should have more than enough time based on all my previous years of doing this to get everything across that you need to get across. All right. Any other questions? All right. So we are hopefully going to be hosting an open lab for you to come practice this as well this weekend. All right. Heath and I will let you know when that's going to be by tomorrow. If not, or if you can't make one or you're not comfortable coming in, I mean, with this crazy world, I understand all of it. I will be posting videos by tomorrow evening to my YouTube channel. If you've never visited it, I think Heath uses a lot in class, but it's Nor'easter Sports Performance on YouTube. It's got no protection, so you can just go and subscribe to it if you want, okay? But I will be posting videos of everything I just taught you. Okay, so I will go through the deadlift with a fine tooth comb, how to coach it. I will go through the power position, through an upper body example and a lower body example of functional fitness. And I will go through an example of each of the muscle groups for dynamic strength or dynamic flexibility, excuse me. Okay, so hopefully you'll have no questions. If you can watch those, they'll all be like less than 90 seconds long. So if you spent 10 or 15 minutes reviewing that over the weekend, I think you'll be golden. Okay, but if you can practice this on a roommate or a teammate, COVID smart, obviously, okay, make sure it's within your household unit and all that stuff and your mask or whatever, okay? But if you can practice this, it will be very helpful, okay, for what you're gonna be doing. And then my last piece of advice to you before I let you go a few minutes early is to write this out or type it out, whatever works best for you. So kind of like Heath and I did with this example, take your upper body example. Okay, this is my base one. This is what I'm going to teach. And then this is my progression. This is my regression. Here are the muscles or the name, the primary muscles, the body positions, the safety cues. This is why it makes it more intense or less intense. Here's my choice for all of my dynamic movements. Okay, if you write it out and study it and I don't want you to have a script. A lot of people think they have to come in with like a script that they have to stick to. And I've had students say, well, I'm off my script. Like, I'm not sure. I'm like, nah, you don't need a script. Have a conversation with your client, your patient, your athlete. Have a conversation with who's in front of you in the moment, and you will do absolutely fine. Got it? And if for some reason, last point, you get way off base and everything just leaves your head, that happens, okay? What I want you to do is say, excuse me, Lindy, excuse me, Wayne, Liv, Heath, whoever, can I have a minute? Okay, and step away for a second, gather your thoughts and come back to us. Zero judgments on that. That's not something we would take points away for, but gather yourself and be confident coming back to us and we will help you out. Got it? You all are going to do awesome. I can't wait to see you on Tuesday to do it. Okay, if you have questions over the weekend or you need anything, reach out to me. Okay, I'll gladly answer it for you. Heath will try to as well, but again, he's recovering. He's doing great, by the way, but he's recovering from his surgery. So but definitely reach out to me with anything you've got and I'll help you out with it. And then keep an eye out for those videos over the weekend. All right. Awesome. Have a great rest of your Thursday and I will see lots of you later. Okay. Bye guys.
To Lindy, thanks.
No
Thank you,
problem.
Coach.
Thank
See ya.
you.
Thank you.
See you, Coach.
Bye.